And I think the silver lining is that we're learning more about our students and how we can better meet their needs at all times. So typically a teacher thinks about how they can meet the students' needs in their classroom. And now I think that we're facing the reality of getting to know our students better so we can meet their needs at home as well.
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of the Ed Hour this week with Alan Kaplan, my co-host. We've been gone for a little while, but we're back, and Alan's going to be introducing our guest shortly. But before we get there, I want to be able to introduce our sponsor of these family podcasts, and that is Hargrave Fiber. They're a fiber company that's working B2B in the Southeast and successfully in Peachtree Corners and the metropolitan Atlanta area and throughout Georgia. They provide bundle services for enterprise solutions. They are a company that gets your internet done on a very local community basis. They're not the cable guy, if you will. They're out there. They're involved in the community. They're involved in everything that we're doing out there, being active members, good members of the community, and they're there for the business community as well. In fact, they're running a promotion right now that is I think it's 90 days free internet for those that sign up with them. You can find out more information about Hargrave Fiber by going to hargravefiber.com and check them out. Alan, introduce yourself again and what we're doing here, and then Jonathan, right?
Great. Hi, welcome back again, everybody. This is Alan Kaplan. Great to be with you again. It seems like we're all on video more these days, and hope this finds everybody well, healthy, and happy. I'm thrilled today to have our guest, Jonathon Wetherington, with us. Some of you may recall that we had Jonathon with us once before when he opened up the Paul Duke STEM High School. Jonathon Wetherington is the principal of the Paul Duke STEM High School, serving the students of Peachtree Corners, Norcross, and the Norcross cluster in greater metro Atlanta area for those outside of this area. So, and here with us today, he's going to talk to us a little bit about digital learning, the challenges that are facing all of us and all of our students these days, and particularly how Paul Duke STEM High School is addressing the needs of our students through this current new challenge of learning. So, with that, Jonathon, if you could talk to us a little bit about what's happening there and what some of the challenges are currently.
Well, Rico and Alan, thanks for having me. And so Paul Duke STEM High School opened in the fall of 2018, and we opened in a unique model that has positioned us well for the current context. But I'll talk some more about that. But when we opened, we were basically serving students face-to-face every 4 days a week. And then on Fridays, we've been doing digital learning for the last year and a half, which has prepared our teachers and our students for an online learning environment. But where we find ourselves today in a continuous state of online learning is different than where we started. We feel like we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 18 months that have helped our students be successful today. We've also shared the things that we've learned with our sister high schools in Gwinnett County, and have really worked together with district leaders and other school leaders to help come up with best options to support students at not only Paul Duke STEM, but all of our high schools.
Go ahead.
So thinking about some of the challenges that we face. So I would say some of the challenges that we currently face are just the reality of teaching online in a continuous basis. So one of the things that exist when you teach students is you convey information, right? We've all been there. The teacher tells us what they want us to learn. We read the assignments, we do the practice problems, but sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're making little mistakes, things that the teacher couldn't prep us for. And we get stuck in those ruts. And there's some nuances in teaching that are more difficult to deliver digitally. And so that's some work that we're doing right now. Other challenges we face are around student access. Some of our students don't have reliable access to technology or the internet. And so it becomes a challenge to work with both those contexts.
So Jonathon, initially, Gwinnett County and Paul Duke STEM High School did have something in place to be able to learn digitally. Tell us a little bit about what that was set up for, and then how that has transformed into what you're doing today.
That's a great question. So really over the last over 10 years, honestly, Gwinnett County Public Schools has been gradually transitioning to more and more digital learning. And so almost a decade ago, we launched our eClass initiative, which is an electronic digital not only platform, but experience by which our students take tests, they learn, they engage both at school and at home with their teachers and with content in a powerful way. And so we started that journey almost a decade ago. And over the last few years, we have used digital learning days to get through some weather situations where the weather prevented students from being able to go to school. We didn't have to cancel school. We were able to have school digitally. And so Gwinnett is engaged regularly over the last couple of years in digital learning days.
Now, is that the case? That's not really the case throughout all of Gwinnett County, or is that select schools?
No, all of Gwinnett. It started with a few schools back in, I think, 2011. And so gradually over the last 8-9 years, we have all progressed to where all schools have had at least 1 or 2 digital learning days due to weather in the last 2 years.
Okay. And I probably would ask you the question, although this is far afield for you. I mean, the lower grades, obviously the high schools are doing it, but I'm not sure how is the middle schools or the elementary schools dealing with it. But certainly I would think it's a challenge for them even more.
I think when you look at digital learning at lower grades and even at high school, it becomes a partnership with the family. So you have to remember that the child's first teacher is its parents. And so parents play an important role. And the younger the student is, the more important role that parent plays. But even at the high school level, parents are important. We interact with parents a lot as we support and encourage students. So really at the lower grades, you're talking about being a really tight partnership with parents. And then over time, this local school assumes more of that responsibility. And in a digital environment, that partnership is really emphasized. And I think you are both parents, you've seen that and lived that reality as well.
Well, what does it look like for for a child to be doing digital learning on a day like today? I know some schools are using Zoom, but not everyone does that. And some have portals, like Gwinnett County has a portal system like that. So how does a typical day look like for a student at Paul Duke STEM High School? Virtual.
That's a great question. So today is actually a gold day. We use our school colors to designate what goes on a given day. On blue days, students have assignments from their language arts, social studies, science, and health PE classes. And on gold days, they have their math classes, their technology classes, fine arts, and world languages. And so we don't have the students doing assignments for every class every day. Over the last 18 months, we've learned that the students need some sort of balance. It's hard to figure out the right dose of learning to give a student. And if they're doing learning in all 6 classes, it can sometimes overwhelm the student.
Do you use a lot of videos? Everyone, I think, I'm familiar with like Zoom, especially if you're teleworking, you get a dozen people on the screen. Is that the same thing for Paul Duke, or is it different? Is it more document-based?
We do recorded videos so that the student can watch the video, stop it, play it back, record it, and then we do independent activities. And then our teachers have 3 hours of office hours per week at designated times so the students can check in with the teachers if they're struggling, because sometimes you just need to hear it explained a couple of different ways.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alan. Sorry. So with that, so one of my questions was about lesson planning. So you said that there's pre-recorded videos that the students watch. Tell us from a teacher's perspective, what are they facing in terms of lesson planning? What are their challenges in planning these lessons differently than they had to before?
I would say the first thing is that teachers love what they teach, but they love the students that they teach more. And so I think there's an emotional toll that this plays on teachers, where very few of our teachers got into this to do teaching this way. So there's an emotional undercurrent to this, to where the teachers want to be there for their students. They want their students to be successful. They want to help their students learn and maximize their success. So teachers have some stress from that. And so they're really trying to figure out creative and interesting ways to deliver the content to students. So they're oftentimes working with their peers to design the lesson and then record some of the video-based instruction that's necessary. I was talking with a teacher today, and she was explaining that she started off just kind of giving the directions on the screen in bullets. Now she still does that, but she records a little video of herself reading the bullets to the kids because students are used to people doing that. They're used to those adults guiding them along the way, and she found that really helped her students.
Nice.
Do you find the technical part of being a teacher, the administrative part, has that changed? I mean, are we still taking attendance? I know that some school systems worry about you have to take attendance or you don't have to take it. Is the parent calling in to say, yes, my child's doing the work? Or how do you handle that aspect of it?
So we don't take attendance. What we do is we look for work completion. So we give assignments to students, and then we expect them over the course of a couple of days to complete those assignments. Okay. So in some of the case of some of our students, they're out there working, and the current situation has given them a greater opportunity to work. So they're working in grocery stores, fast food restaurants. So some of our students are actually in more essential jobs than our teachers are, because their students are going out into the world, working, and then coming home and doing their learning.
Is there any opportunity, Jonathan, for, one of the things that most kids like about school is their opportunity to socially interact with their students and to see their friends, as well as their teachers that they've created bonds with? Is there any live opportunity for them to engage as a group of their classmates and or teachers?
Yes. So every student has at least 3 hours that they can engage live with their teacher. Of course, with all 7 teachers at our school, 3 hours that they can pick throughout the week to engage with their teacher. And we built a master schedule that prevents the math teacher from having office hours at the same time as the language arts teacher and the same time as the science teacher, which allows teachers to check in with different students at different times without creating scheduling conflicts. That gets to be a big issue when you get to large numbers of students.
Just with one teacher, though, is there any type of group video that can take place with multiple students and a teacher?
Actually, those teacher office hours, oftentimes multiple students will jump in, and we see that going on. We see it really powerfully with our world language teachers. So our French teachers have done a great job with bringing multiple students together at the same time, so those students can interact in French or Spanish. And so those language teachers are really good at it. The other thing, really, with just our seniors, we actually have a senior play date every day or every week at 3:30 on Wednesdays.
Nice.
And with our seniors, losing some of the other things to their senior year, to help mitigate that and to help them stay emotionally connected with each other, we do a Google Meet where all of them actually come in. And last week, we actually had 80% of our seniors joining into that group.
Wow. That's amazing participation.
Yeah.
It is. And so they're chit-chatting with each other. They enjoy seeing each other. And we do see that with our students, even with younger students, older students, they miss that contact with the teachers and the students that they care about. And so it's great to see their faces light up when they're happy to see you.
Now, with
Nice.
Holduke's a little different from, let's say, Norcross, where there's more sports. Actually, there's sports there, let's say. So I can, that's a whole different animal altogether now. Where those poor kids not being able to do, go to championships and things that they've trained for to be able to do. But Paul Duke also has theater, right? You have music, I think. So how is that? How is that more hands-on stuff? How's that being handled?
So that requires a lot of creativity for the teachers too. How do you teach dance or how to play the cello or the viola?
Or graphic design, right? Or
graphic design.
Yeah.
So those interactive experiences and the culminating products look different than a math class does. And so those teachers have been really creative in how they approach that. I know our dance teacher has been recording videos of some exercises and movements that she does and been sharing those with dance teachers across the school district, because it can often get monotonous to be learning the same sort of thing from the same teacher. So I know in Gwinnett County Public Schools, the dance teachers are trading video lessons,
Wow.
basically choreography, where they're choreographing dances, and then they're giving that to other students so that the students are learning just like they would from different choreographers if they were really in class.
Wow. That's phenomenal. I mean, I can see how that could reinvigorate almost a learning situation.
It takes away some of the monotony and boredom that comes from hearing the same talking head every day.
Yes, I can't see doing classwork 4 hours straight on a portal. Although I see my son comes down at a certain hour, he finishes at a certain hour. He's actually right in the dining room next to my office, and he's doing his thing. I can see it, and he's chit-chatting with his friends on another computer as well, and it's just, it's a good thing.
And that is a good thing, and it makes me feel good to know that students are doing that they are finding ways to socially connect.
Yeah.
Since one of the big places that they socially connect is school.
Right, and the portal doesn't quite give you that part of it. You can't quite talk to your friends on there, but they're using other, whether it's Google Hangout or for them, I think it's Discord or some other venues, online services. But they're chatting away, they're doing stuff.
So Jonathan, obviously the teachers are working remotely, but there's certain staff that's necessary to.
You're going to have to come back again, Alan. Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're freezing up, buddy. And this happens, technology.
Yeah, that's and I think a little bit of what Alan was asking is that the teachers are working from home, but we do have staff members on campus. So our cafeteria workers are on campus preparing student lunches. We have our custodians are getting the building ready, keeping it clean, and getting it ready for when students eventually do return. Okay. We have a few administrators on campus that are working through administrative tasks that we need to finish out the year. I come into work every day and oversee that, have meetings digitally with community partners, teachers, students, parents.
Okay.
In many ways, schools are cornerstones of our community, and to totally close them down, it's almost greater wounds us at this time. And so keeping schools open, being a place where students can find resources or connect with someone, even if it's on the phone, is important.
So you guys practicing social distancing, wearing masks and all that, I guess?
We are. So we actually work in separate offices. We don't actually interact. It's pretty antisocial or sterile for a school, but the lights are on. We're taking care of people. We're able to deal with some needs. We are actually even now loaning Chromebooks. So we have some students whose technology has either broken in the time we've been off school or their access hasn't been consistent. So we've been able to loan some Chromebooks and help students have the access they need.
Are you
nice?
We have I think until May 20th, right? I think the last day of school is May 20th for Gwinnett County.
That's correct.
Right. So it's a 4-day learning week. Friday's like a day off because everything's consolidated into that 4-day week schedule until the 20th.
Well, it's not really a day off. We use that day to catch up with students, to connect with them. We find a lot of our students may have taken a quiz that week and not done very well. So Friday gives us a chance to reteach, give them a chance to perform as well as they normally would. Okay. Normally in a school week, you would be able to intervene in real time. Mm-hmm. But since our students aren't doing school in real time, we need a day to kind of check in on them, maintain their learning, and push them forward.
How are you,
Jonathan?
How are you handling finals? End of semester testing.
So regarding final exams in a semester, so we will be doing final exams at the end of the semester. They'll look a little different. Testing has to look a little different in this environment. You can't. It's not just going to be your bubble sheets or essay tests. Mm-hmm. So we have to find some different ways to ensure our students can show us what they know.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would make sense. Also, I think if you did multiple choices, I can see people on the second device trying to figure out what everyone's doing. That could be another problem, right?
Well, and Rico, that's a great point. I mean, we've even seen the College Board is going to be doing AP testing, allowing students to test at home. And so they've moved away from multiple choice tests, and they're going to more free response, constructive response that students can answer on a computer or even handwrite and take a picture and submit. under a short time frame. So we know that teenagers can often be creative, collaborative learners. And while that's a beneficial 21st century skill.
Love the way you put that. Okay.
You're welcome. Yeah. We really want our students to be able to show us what they know, not what their friends know.
Right.
So we have to come up with some creative ways to help us ensure that we're actually assessing the student.
Good.
So Jonathan, one of the in addition to keep our kids learning and moving forward, one of the great benefits I see of the digital learning through this crisis is providing our kids structure to be out of the norm in most aspects of their life with the shelter in place and so forth. This begins to add back some normalcy or structure to their lives that they would otherwise be missing. And I worry about that a little bit because summer is coming. And while they're normally, have that free time and lack of structure in the summer, that's something that's typically desired. I worry that without this structure, that our kids have the opportunity now. I worry about my own kids is where does that place us with this summer? If we still find ourselves in this situation this summer, I almost wish that there was a way to have an opportunity for these kids to continue to learn, but also to have this community structure, this school structure. As you said, the school is a cornerstone of our community, and it's providing such an important role beyond just education to help kids manage through this crisis. So I don't know if there is anything that's available through the schools to help our kids through the summer if we're still in this situation. But you have any thoughts on?
Yes. So I know that one of the things that we're considering is really what might that look like? And so we know that school plays an important part in providing structure in students' lives, but also, teachers' last day of employment by their contract is the 22nd. So there's this middle ground, I think, or this place where we can give resources to parents, give resources to students to help them maintain that structure as they move from May to June and then into July. Hopefully, things will continue to improve, that people will keep social distance in mind, even as folks start to go back to work. But I am hopeful that we can begin to regain some of those structures in our environment so that we can give people a break from school. I think it'd be time for a break by the time we get to the end of the semester. But then how can we also give our students structure when they haven't been in school physically since really mid-March?
Yeah. How do you plan out, like even looking at long-term? Because, yes, we may roll out of this the beginning of May, middle of May, end of May, who knows? And what does it look like going back to school in August?
Correct.
And especially if they talk about being prepared for a second wave or the way we have to be different socially. So this way we don't catch a second wave maybe. But
correct.
Is that been discussed somewhere?
Oh, absolutely. Our district leaders are having these conversations. We're thinking through all the possibilities. We want our students to be safe. We want them to be learning effectively. It's not worth putting people at risk to endanger people. So we're looking at all the possibilities. We're thinking about how we can leverage the lessons that we're learning now for this year and for the future.
I was thinking about the other day. Before today's podcast, I was thinking a little bit about when I visited and checked out the 3D printers you guys had, the mechatronics. I think that's what it's called. Looking at that, looking at the coding, looking at even the movie equipment that you guys have to be able to shoot films, the green screen. None of that is being able to be used at this point, it seems, which is a shame, right?
Right.
So how? I don't know. What do you do with that?
So right now we are looking at, we've checked out some things to students, some films. And so we actually had some of our students in our filmmaking classes are using their phones to make films as they're out in appropriate social distancing backyard films, so to speak, that they're making with their families. But we've also loaned a few pieces out to students who are working on more sustained projects. And so we're trying to find ways to use those resources. We've tried to look for some partnerships with the 3D printers. We know that there are some folks that can leverage those successfully. So we've reached out to a few people. We're waiting to hear back. about ways that we can use the resources we have in the school, since the school's open to some employees, to be able to use the resources we have to do good in our community.
Great idea, actually. Great idea. As far as the challenges that you're facing on, you were telling us before about how students can use the free time to talk to teachers and such. And that's a choice that a student needs to make. You know how kids are sometimes.
Right.
No, I know enough, or no, I don't need to do that. I don't need to interact. Why don't you email? No, I don't need to do that. How do you sort of not force it upon them, but how do you do any of that? Try proactive use of that work?
So, what I would tell parents is that I have two seniors myself, and then I have an eighth grader, and we have a contract worked out per se, so that as long as they're doing their work and they're performing well in their online learning, their face-to-face sessions can continue to be optional. But if they start to struggle a little bit, then they need to go to the face-to-face session. And then actually with my youngest student, I require her to go to at least every other online session. Because I think as students, the younger they are, the more important it is to kind of force them, to interact, and because they don't realize the benefit that comes from that interaction. Yeah. Whereas a more mature student, an older student might be more autonomous, might be able to better self-regulate. So it is really up to each parent and student to find that perfect media. But what I want our parents to know, or parents around the world to know, is that your teachers care about your students. They want to see them interact live when possible. And they certainly want to know when the parent needs additional help.
Okay.
Well, I think you said it earlier, Jonathan, is, our teachers and teachers that as being a big impact to them, not to being able to interact with them the way that they traditionally have, and to still stay motivated and focused and on track themselves, to be able to continue to help our students continue to learn while still dealing with the challenges that they have personally and emotionally through this process. And so, speaking for the teachers that my kids are interacting with in their schools, I'm so most impressed with the ability of these teachers to forge forward, to stay motivated, to stay positive for the benefit of our kids.
Yeah, our teachers, certainly our healthcare workers, folks on the front line, first responders are heroes. But I think this has been an interesting place where teachers have really emerged and showed some of their superpowers. They have really stepped up their efforts to really help our students be successful. And really the teachers want the students to be successful. They're being very creative in how they tackle some of those challenges, knowing that our students are facing very unique challenges, more unique than typically we see in a school where everybody's in the same room at the same time, same amount of time with the teacher. We can control some of those variables. In our current context, the variables are less controlled. So the teachers are really looking for how they can rise to the challenge.
What about the other staffing? I mean, you have, bus drivers. Obviously, there's no driving at this point. How, I know the school system is actually still hiring. I've seen ads where they're still hiring because school goes back and eventually you need bus drivers, right?
So we see our bus drivers right now, some of them are delivering lunches. And so they're actually delivering meals into the community.
Okay.
We have 68 schools that are preparing lunches and breakfast now. We now have breakfast and lunch being prepared, delivered in the community. And so our bus drivers are doing some of that with our cafeteria teams. So that has really been amazing to see students come out every day, walk to their bus stop, get a lunch and be able to go back home. So those little things matter. And Alan, you were referring to those routines and those important pieces. Those little things matter when stuff starts to get chaotic in the rest of the world. And so the little details really become important. And so I'm just grateful to those bus drivers, to the cafeteria workers. Our school counselors are actually still available, and they're meeting with students on a regular basis, providing social emotional support, but also working with kids as they try to get into colleges. And so those kinds of nuanced details. Our clerical workers are calling and checking on our students and parents, making sure they're okay. What really online learning does is it forces us to really reach out into the community more so than I think we did when we were a brick and mortar institution, which has its benefits.
Hmm. Is there a silver lining to this?
Well, and I think, Jonathan, sorry, Rico, I think there's a delay with us, but I heard you mention a silver lining, and that's kind of plays into what I was going to say is, providing this structure as we go through this crisis, having our schools there and having the staff and teachers doing what they're doing. I really see our schools as an anchor in this storm to our students and to our community. So to all of you and all of them, we're, as parents and community members, we're extremely grateful for that stability that the schools are providing our community.
Well, thank you. And I think the silver lining is that we're learning more about our students and how we can better meet their needs at all times. So typically a teacher thinks about how they can meet the students' needs in their classroom. And now I think that we're facing the reality of getting to know our students better so we can meet their needs at home as well. And that's a two-way street. The students value the fact that knowing the teacher cares, the teacher's reaching out. Yeah. And I think we're building bridges between parents and teachers and parents and students that will pay dividends for years to come.
Yeah, good job. I noticed that Norcross High School is using social media to an extent to be able to get some things going, and out there, and Paul Duke does the same. I was noticing, I think, senior pictures on Instagram that Norcross was putting out. Is there anything special that Paul Duke is doing on their social media?
We've done a few things on social media to really engage our students, to really make them laugh sometimes. So we did a faculty and staff truth or dare before spring break, where we basically, different staff members challenged each other to truth or dares, recorded those on Instagram and posted it. And we really saw our followership increase during that window. And then now some of our teachers actually get on to their Instagram stories and basically walk through the day's lesson. Wow. So the student can wake up first thing in the morning, if they're following their teacher, kind of hear what their teacher's lesson for the day is. And now we are highlighting our seniors, really trying to find ways to celebrate the work of our seniors and the work of our students, because our students need to remember that we do care about all of them, and the work they do matters.
Yeah. I know it feels like the C generation is going to be lost at some point. School's going to be over soon. Hopefully, I think at one point there was a rumor, they're going to make us do the semester over again. I know that's not going to happen, but it's a challenge for everyone, I'm sure.
It is, and we've been in this situation for about a month, and the good news is we've got about a month or greater till school gets out, so we've still got some time for some good learning to happen.
Cool.
So, Jonathan, what does the end of the year look like? What does graduation look like for this year's class for 2020?
So I'm glad you asked that question, Alan. So we are actually getting ready to hand out caps and gowns in a no-contact fashion next week. So students will actually be coming to all Gwinnett high schools on Monday through Wednesday of next week to pick up their caps and gowns and senior regalia. We'll be doing contactless delivery right into people's trunks as they drive through all of Gwinnett County's high schools. The students are then going to have the opportunity to take that regalia, put it on, and then take their best picture. I know for my daughters, that activity may take them half a day to take the best picture. And so they're gonna be able to do that. And then from there, they'll then send the pictures into the school. And working with our television and media crew at the district level, we're putting together a virtual graduation ceremony for each of our high schools. Oh, wow. And that's going to be unique and different. And the good news is we're also planning, if everything goes well, a face-to-face graduation in July.
Wow. That would be cool.
Nice.
Are they getting a yearbook as well?
They will get yearbooks, so there'll be yearbook pickup coming up, and so we're learning how to do all sorts of things in new and efficient ways.
That's cool. Well, we've I think we've come to the end of our time together here. Do you want to, Jonathan, do you want to share anything else at this point before we go off?
Well, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to come on to share a little bit what's going on at Paul Duke STEM, but in schools across our country and our state. The opportunity that educators have to impact students has been impacted by this event, by the virus. But I would say that we have shown, just like we do in a lot of situations, that the power of the human spirit is strong, and that there's a desire for people to connect. There's a desire for those cornerstone institutions in our communities to rally around our families, our children, those that need us the most, and really be there for them. And so I'm just excited to tell a little bit of our story, but also a story that's going on in every community around our great country.
Jonathon, thank you so much for everything that you're doing, for everything that your team's doing, and for all of the teachers and support staff in our schools that are listening. We truly are grateful for everything that you're doing for our kids and again for our community. And I agree. I think we'll all come out stronger and a more close-knit community, both with our school and again, just grateful for everything that y'all are doing.
Yeah, well, thank you both for what y'all are doing. Thank you, Jonathan. Hang in there with us for a minute while Alan and I sign off here. Alan, you want to share anything else with our audience at this point?
Well, again, I just hope everybody listening and that this podcast finds them well and healthy, and for those of you that are facing challenges and sometimes extreme challenges through this, I wish you peace and strength and wish you the very best through the crisis, and looking forward to moving forward together through this.
Yes, thank you, Alan, and thank you, Jonathan, and everyone else. We look forward to the next episode at some point. Petrie Corner's Life is also airing, continuing to do interviews. We have one tonight, by the way, with county commission candidate. Believe it or not, there are elections going on. So we'll be doing that. And hopefully you all have received Petrie Corner's Life, which has a cover story about, Petrie Corner's Magazine, which has a cover story about digital learning and how the schools in the area are dealing with it. So this was a good complimentary one-on-one, 2 or 3-on-1 talk, if you will, about the subject. So thank you all. Appreciate it.